Karma moves like the wind, unseen, unheard, and yet powerfully felt. In the quiet chambers of life, it doesn't announce its arrival with thunder or spectacle. Instead, it works silently, weaving consequences through the fabric of time, whispering justice into existence in ways that cannot be ignored. What if you could recognize when karma is unfolding, not loudly, but softly and unmistakably? What if you could spot the signs that the universe is balancing its scales right in front of you? This speech unravels a timeless mystery, one often spoken about in ancient temples, in philosophical discourses, and in the still reflections of solitude. Karma is not just about what comes around, but how it comes around, and most importantly, when. Many times we miss its entrance because we expect drama. But karma, like true wisdom, is subtle, patient, and precise. Among the most captivating realizations we encounter in our life journey is this: those who hurt others, deceive, betray, or manipulate may seem to walk away untouched, but the universe never sleeps. Just because retribution isn't immediate doesn't mean it isn't inevitable. The truth is, karma rarely screams, it whispers, and only those who listen with their soul can hear its voice. One of the most engaging parts of today's speech lies in this realization. People don't always fall when you push them. Sometimes they stumble quietly later, over the very stones they threw at others. This moment of awakening is both comforting and chilling. Comforting because justice is real, chilling because it means we must live with great awareness, lest we become victims of our own misdeeds. In today's talk, we delve into 5 unmistakable signs that karma is hitting someone silently. These signs don't need public spectacles. They don't need confrontation. They simply unfold in a person's life, like the slow, steady tide reshaping the shore. We're not here to rejoice in someone's downfall. We're here to understand the quiet mechanism of cause and effect, and how awareness of these signs can empower us to live with greater compassion, wisdom, and integrity. This speech will serve not as judgment, but as observation, a spiritual lens to see beyond the surface, into the deeper mechanics of the human journey. The 5 signs we'll explore are not mystical predictions. They're grounded in lived experiences, in ancient principles, and in the energy dynamics of right and wrong. These are signs you may have seen before, in people who appeared untouchable, until life responded. This speech offers not just insight into others, but also a mirror to reflect on ourselves. Because the greatest power lies not in watching karma visit someone else, but in living in such a way that karma becomes your ally, not your opponent. Let's now begin to uncover the 3 core signs, each a thread in karma's quiet tapestry. Each one a reminder that the universe always listens, and sooner or later it answers. Karma is a force that doesn't need validation or belief to exist. It's not about punishment, it's about balance. In a world where injustice often seems to triumph and good people sometimes suffer, it can be easy to lose faith in the fairness of life. But the wisdom of the ancients, the whispers of the soul, and the repeated patterns in people's lives all point to one unshakable truth: no deed goes unnoticed by the universe. The beauty of karma lies in its neutrality. It doesn't take sides, it doesn't hurry, it simply waits, it watches, and when the time is right it moves, not with revenge, but with justice, not to harm, but to teach. The signs we've explored today aren't curses. They are awakenings. They are the way life reminds us that everything is connected, that intention matters, and that energy always returns to its source. For those who have harmed others, knowingly or unknowingly, these silent signs serve as a turning point. The loss of peace, the isolation, the resistance they face, these are not punishments, they are opportunities. Life is offering them a mirror. The question is, will they look into it? And for us, for you, the listener, this insight is not just about observing others. It's about looking within. Karma is not something that only happens to others. It's happening in your life right now. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every action you take, it all shapes the energy around you. The person you become tomorrow is built on the karma you create today. This understanding should not make us fearful. it should make us mindful, because karma doesn't demand perfection. It demands awareness. You don't have to get everything right. You just have to try, with sincerity, with humility, and with honesty. The quiet signs of karma hitting someone aren't meant to inspire judgment. They're meant to inspire change. If you've recognized these signs in someone's life, offer compassion, not criticism. And if you've seen glimpses of them in your own path, don't despair. That's the gift of awareness. It gives you the chance to realign, to repair, to rise. In closing, let this be your takeaway. Karma is not a myth. It's not superstition. It's not revenge. It is the invisible rhythm of the universe keeping the dance of life in balance. And when you live in tune with it, when your actions, words, and intentions come from a place of truth, you become more than just a participant in life. You become a conscious creator of it. So stay aware. Stay kind, stay true, because whether it whispers in your favor or against you, karma always arrives, silently, but surely. There is a peculiar paradox that unfolds in the lives of certain individuals. Outwardly, they seem successful. They wear polished smiles, sit in high places, post photos of their grand achievements, drive expensive cars, and walk with an air of having arrived. But if you look just a little closer, not at their possessions, but into their energy, you'll notice something deeper unraveling beneath the surface. It is not visible to the ordinary eye, but to those with inner sight, it's clear. They are slowly, quietly being unraveled from within. This is the first and one of the most powerful signs that karma is silently at work. The loss of peace despite visible success. It is a spiritual dissonance, a growing emptiness that no wealth, no recognition, and no applause can soothe. People who have harmed others, manipulated, betrayed, or acted in ways that deeply injured someone's spirit often walk into a storm of their own making, not with thunderclaps, but with the soft, unbearable silence of their soul growing restless. Their success becomes hollow, not because they don't have enough, but because nothing is ever enough. The restless mind becomes their prison, despite gaining what they once craved. Status, admiration, maybe even revenge, they find themselves unable to rest. There's no real joy in what they've built. They smile, but it doesn't reach their eyes. They laugh, but it fades quickly. They sleep, but they are not rested. In the middle of their luxuries, they lie awake with thoughts racing. Thoughts they cannot outrun, and this is where karma begins to whisper. It tells them, you hurt someone who never deserved it. It tells them, you took shortcuts and now the destination feels meaningless. It tells them, you've succeeded in the world's eyes, but failed in your own. They try to distract themselves, they overwork, they overspend, they drown in stimulation, parties, noise, sex, shopping, content, distractions, anything to not be alone with themselves, but silence finds them anyway. And in that silence, karma speaks, not with threats, but with reflection. Because karma doesn't only come to take away what someone has. Often, it comes by taking away the ability to enjoy it. And that is perhaps more devastating than any external loss. What's the point of winning if you no longer feel victorious? What's the point of climbing the mountain if, once you get to the top, you realize you stepped on people to get there, and now the view doesn't bring peace, but guilt? Guilt is karma's first shadow. It might appear slowly, almost imperceptibly, but once it enters, it begins to stain even the most golden moments. That first sip of champagne on a celebration night doesn't taste quite right. That expensive vacation feels like an escape instead of a reward. The compliments from others sound shallow when you know the truth of your actions. The universe doesn't punish, it reminds. And one of the most haunting reminders is when someone reaches what they thought was the pinnacle of life, only to find it cold, lonely, and devoid of meaning. What's more, the mind begins to replay things from the past. A face they betrayed, a voice they silenced, a trust they broke, a kindness they rejected. These memories become loud, especially when the world grows quiet, and no amount of money or affirmation can shut them up. The very success that once fed their ego now becomes the mirror showing them who they've become. This inner collapse is subtle but devastating. They begin to feel tired, not physically, but spiritually. The soul gets heavy. Joy becomes rare, relationships become transactional, laughter feels fake, they become more irritable, more impatient, more defensive, because deep down they know something is wrong. And they fear being found out, not by the world, but by themselves. Even their bodies begin to show signs: stress increases, sleep disturbances, unexplainable illnesses, their energy becomes chaotic. The body responds to the vibration of karma like an instrument being played out of tune. They try to fix it with surface-level solutions. Doctors, spas, therapists, life coaches. But if they don't fix the root, the misalignment in their actions, nothing truly heals. And that is the essence of karma working silently. It doesn't need to remove the external markers of success. It works from the inside, making sure that the joy is drained out of them until they are forced to face themselves. It doesn't matter how powerful someone is, how rich, how popular. If peace has left them, they are bankrupt in the only way that truly matters. The loss of peace is not just a symptom of stress, it is a spiritual verdict. A life lived in disconnection from truth will eventually feel like a cage, no matter how golden. Sometimes they may still pretend, they may double down on appearances, they may work harder to maintain the illusion. But they know, and in knowing, their restlessness grows, because once the soul becomes aware of its own missteps, it cannot unknow it. That awareness, even if buried, keeps resurfacing, like a splinter in the mind, like a whisper that won't go away. This is why some of the most visibly successful people are also among the most tormented, because their success wasn't clean, and what isn't clean cannot shine. The wise know that the only real success is inner peace. It is not given by achievements, but by alignment. When your actions, your words, and your heart are in harmony, you sleep well, you smile genuinely, you live freely. But if you step over people, betray love, and choose selfish gain over integrity, karma doesn't have to wait for decades. It starts its work immediately by pulling away your peace. And so, the loss of peace despite success is not random. It's not just life being hard. It's a quiet response from the universe, a sacred tap on the shoulder, a signal that something must be corrected, and for those wise enough to listen, it's also a gift, because when karma taps gently, it's giving you the chance to change before it hits harder. It's offering a path to redemption through awareness, humility, and honest transformation. But for those who ignore it, the whispers will eventually become storms, because the universe may be patient, but it is never silent forever. There is something deeply unsettling about watching someone slowly lose their connection to others, not because life moved them apart naturally, but because their own actions have driven people away. This second sign that karma is silently working is one of the most painful, yet the most revealing: isolation from genuine relationships. And the tragic part is that it rarely begins as an obvious fracture. It starts with subtle cracks in the foundation, cracks caused by betrayal, manipulation, dishonesty, or selfishness. Karma doesn't always strike with calamity. Sometimes it simply removes what the person didn't value when they had it. And the first thing to disappear is often the warmth of real connection. People who once surrounded them with loyalty, affection, and trust begin to pull away, not always in anger, but in quiet disappointment. Not with loud accusations, but with growing silence. When someone acts with cruelty or deceit toward those who cared for them, when they use others for convenience or personal gain, the universe takes note. Those seemingly small acts, an insult that cut too deep, a lie spoken too easily, a betrayal that was justified in their mind, begin to accumulate, and slowly the people around them feel it. They begin to withdraw their energy, their time, their loyalty, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. At first, the person may not notice. They are too wrapped up in their ambitions, too busy chasing success, control, or revenge. They think they are doing just fine. After all, they still have acquaintances, they still have colleagues, they still have followers, likes, and a social circle that claps for them. But what they don't realize is that none of those connections are real. None of them offer the depth of trust, love, or soul connection that makes life truly fulfilling, because real relationships are built on honesty, empathy, and care, not image, convenience, or ego. When someone burns bridges in the name of pride or gain, karma doesn't immediately send destruction. It sends distance. The universe creates a vacuum around them where intimacy once lived. Friends don't call as much. Family members begin to detach emotionally. The people who used to celebrate with them now do so out of politeness, not joy. Eventually, they begin to feel it. The laughter at social gatherings doesn't land the same way. The rooms they walk into feel colder. The conversations become shallow. They are surrounded by people, but they are alone. And loneliness, real spiritual loneliness, is one of the most haunting consequences of karma. What's worse is that they often don't understand why it's happening. They may blame others. People are just jealous. They're not loyal. No one understands me. They spin narratives to protect their ego, not realizing that they are the common thread in every broken connection. Karma doesn't just remove people, it reveals patterns, and until they take responsibility, the isolation deepens. There is a moment that comes for every person in this situation, a moment when they reach out, perhaps in a time of need or vulnerability, expecting someone to be there. But the silence on the other end of the line is louder than any shout. The people they once hurt have found peace elsewhere. They are no longer available to be hurt again, and that's when it begins to hit. They begin to miss the sincerity in a friend's eyes, the comfort of being truly seen by a partner, the ease of conversations with someone who didn't need anything from them. But those people have moved on, and the doors they once closed in pride are now closed in permanence. Isolation becomes more than just physical solitude. It becomes emotional emptiness. They may still talk to people every day, still be admired by many, but deep down they know that none of it is real. No one truly knows them anymore. No one trusts them enough to open their heart, and they no longer know how to open theirs either. Even in relationships that remain, be it with family, spouses, or long-term friends, there's a subtle emotional erosion. Trust is fragile, love is strained, conversations are guarded. They may still be in touch, but not in connection, and this kind of distance is even more painful than separation, because you're reminded of what's missing while still being around it. And here's the truth: the soul knows. It knows when the love it receives is real or performed. It knows when people stay out of obligation, not devotion, and that inner knowing begins to ache. Karma, in this form, teaches not through loss of things, but through loss of heart. The people they once took for granted, the ones they dismissed, disrespected, or emotionally wounded, those people become the ones they miss the most. But it's too late, because karma doesn't allow you to keep what you mistreat. In time, they may seek to replace what was lost: new friends, new partners, new social groups, but nothing feels the same, because genuine connection comes from an open heart, and hearts closed off by ego, resentment, or guilt cannot receive authentic love. This isolation also breeds a quiet bitterness. They begin to view others with suspicion. They think, no one's loyal, everyone leaves, but they never see the role they played in creating that story. And so they repeat it over and over, attracting the same shallow, transactional relationships that end the same way, leaving them emptier each time. But within this karma is an invitation, a chance to awaken. If they're willing to pause, reflect, and see their part in the disconnection, the universe allows repair. Because isolation isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's space for transformation, a space where ego breaks down and humility grows. The lonely moments can become sacred, the silence can become a teacher, but only if they stop running from it, only if they let go of pride, acknowledge their wounds, and make genuine efforts to reconnect, not to be seen, but to see others. In the end, karma doesn't want to destroy anyone. It wants to purify, to restore balance, to realign the soul with truth. The loss of relationships isn't permanent if the lesson is learned, but if it isn't, the silence only gets louder. So, when you see someone who once had vibrant, loving connections now surrounded by superficial noise or empty rooms, know that karma may be moving in their life, not to punish, but to awaken, to remind them of the sacred value of sincerity, to lead them back to the truth they abandoned, because in the end, no amount of success, fame, or wealth can replace the touch of a genuine heart, and karma, in its quiet wisdom, knows this. That's why it takes away not what they need, but what they didn't realize they couldn't live without: authentic human connection. One of the most telling signs that karma is silently at work in someone's life is when they begin to experience recurring patterns, cycles that repeat over and over again despite their efforts to move forward. At first, these patterns may seem like unfortunate coincidences. A deal falls through at the last moment, a relationship suddenly collapses, or an unexpected obstacle derails a well-thought-out plan. But as time passes, it becomes unmistakable that the same challenges keep reappearing. The faces may change, the settings may differ, but the lesson remains the same, and it is in this repetition that karma reveals itself. Karma doesn't punish with drama, it teaches through rhythm. When a soul has chosen not to see, life repeats the message until the eyes of awareness finally open. The more someone resists looking inward, the more life mirrors back exactly what they're avoiding. This is the law of reflection, and it's one of the most compassionate aspects of karma, though to those trapped in the cycle, it can feel like sabotage. Imagine someone who constantly finds themselves in relationships where they feel betrayed. No matter how different their partners seem, the ending is always the same: deception, heartbreak, abandonment. Or someone who jumps from job to job, always with big hopes, only to feel undervalued or sabotaged each time. To the unawakened mind, this appears as bad luck or external injustice. But the awakened soul begins to notice a pattern, and the pattern whispers one truth: this is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Karma doesn't deal in chaos, it deals in mirrors. If someone carries unresolved guilt, anger, jealousy, or pride in their energy, that energy will shape their reality. Life, in its infinite intelligence, will place them again and again in situations that press those wounds, that activate their shadow, that force them to face the parts of themselves they would rather ignore. Sometimes the pattern is about betrayal, because they once betrayed others and never made it right. Sometimes the pattern is about rejection, because they rejected others when they were needed the most. And sometimes the pattern is failure, not because they are not capable, but because they succeeded in the past through manipulation or cruelty. And now life denies them easy victory, so they can learn how to build with integrity. It's easy to complain when things don't go our way. It's harder to ask, what am I not seeing? What am I not healing? But karma, in its higher intelligence, always asks this of us. It wraps its lessons in hardship not to break us, but to bring our attention to where our soul is still blind. When someone is caught in these recurring patterns, their frustration deepens. They try to force change. They shift cities, switch partners, launch new businesses, or adopt new identities, but the same emotional outcome keeps returning. This is not punishment. This is design, because spiritual laws are not fooled by external change. Until the inner frequency shifts, the outer world must echo what's within. They begin to feel resistance in everything. Things that used to come easily now take immense effort. Plans unravel without warning. Connections fall apart without clear cause. Even their creativity feels blocked. This resistance is not just bad timing. It is karma saying, you cannot bypass this lesson. You cannot run from what must be faced. You must pause and look within. And when they finally sit in stillness, if they have the courage to, they may hear it. A whisper, a memory, a moment in the past where they acted out of alignment, with dishonesty, cruelty, arrogance, or indifference. It is that moment they've been running from. It is that wound they've buried. And it is that memory which karma has been trying to bring back to the surface, not to shame them, but to cleanse them, because healing cannot occur where denial persists. The universe is not a judge, it is a mirror. If a soul carries the vibration of unhealed harm, That vibration must manifest in their life until it is transformed. That is why the same types of people show up. That is why the same types of conflicts occur. That is why growth becomes so hard, because the soul is still trying to move forward while dragging the weight of what it hasn't yet owned. People often say, "Why does this keep happening to me?" Rarely do they ask, "How am I contributing to this cycle?" But that's the question karma is always trying to inspire. It wants to bring the soul into radical responsibility, not guilt, not shame, but clarity. The clarity that comes when one recognizes their own patterns and chooses to break them with conscious action. And how is the pattern broken? Not through external success, not through fleeing to new environments, but through deep internal transformation, through acts of humility, through reparations, apologies, forgiveness, of others, yes, but also of oneself. Through choosing to act differently next time. Through choosing to love where once there was hate, to tell the truth where once there was deceit, to build where once they destroyed. This is how karma turns from a weight to a teacher, from a cycle to a breakthrough. But until that moment of reckoning, the patterns persist, because karma does not forget. It does not allow shortcuts. It demands evolution. The tragedy is that many people resist this path. They keep blaming the world. They stay stuck in victimhood, and so karma keeps teaching, patiently but firmly, and each time the lesson returns, it grows a little louder, a little harder, a little more urgent, until finally they either awaken or collapse. But for those who dare to ask, "What is life trying to show me?" a different path opens, the resistance softens, the patterns begin to break, and slowly a new rhythm replaces the old one built not on avoidance but on awareness. And so, when you see someone who seems stuck in loops, who rises only to fall again, who builds only to watch it crumble, who searches but never finds, you are witnessing not misfortune, but karmic repetition. A soul caught in the echo of its own past actions, a being invited to grow beyond the cycle. The question is never whether karma is real. The question is, are we willing to see its signs when they appear in disguise? Are we willing to stop blaming others and start reflecting inward? Are we willing to learn before life forces us to? Because the truth is, every pattern that repeats is a portal, and on the other side of that portal is freedom. But only for those brave enough to walk through it, not with pride but with presence.